Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters, and welcome to not another episode of Splattercast. No, this is a little something different. I'm sure if you're an avid viewer, a longtime follower, you're a bit confused. Guys, this is a horror channel. Why the hell are you talking about the new Flash film? What is going on? Well, in short, to kind of sum things up for you guys, we got an opportunity to check out this film early. We saw this on Monday. This is not getting posted till Thursday, just due to time constraints and having to get everything ready because we decided, Luke and I discussed, to make this the official launching point for a project that I know if you've been following us, we've teased it, we've mentioned it, we've talked about it, and now it's finally here. We are going to be rebooting our other podcast, By Admission Only. Now, Luke, you want to give our folks a little bit of context once again for maybe some new faces or whatnot of what By Admission Only was?
Yeah, so if you listen to a few of our actual podcast as well as
Mm-hmm.
probably some maybe Sunday Scaries, we've touched on it. So if you've been with us, you probably have the full story. But if you have missed out on bits and pieces, me and Dylan met at a used media store, and after a little while of knowing each other and kind of being able to talk film, I had always had it in my head that I wanted to do a podcast, and I had the name By Admission Only pop up in my head, and then I just never found the right person to actually talk film with. And then I remember until Dylan walks into my life, and I remember pitching it to him, saying I want to do a podcast, and I have a name for it, and kind of got the set ready and everything. Got some microphones and everything, and we would meet in person, and we would do we tried to see like almost every film that was out there,
Really
which
hard.
became horrible task, a horror movie in itself. And then so we do the reviews, the podcasts, top fives every week about what was at the box office and everything. So, and we went on for a little while. And then finally, as life happens, we hit that brick wall and kind of shelved it for a while. And then, we'd been messing around with Splattercast, and we kind of course, if you're with us here on the channel, we've been pretty consistent, and more and more we're finding other films that we would like to talk about. And the beauty about By Admission Only is it's not really genre specific. It's really
Mm-hmm.
anything that's out there that we want to talk about, an old film, a new film, whatever really falls under that kind of range that piques our interest at the time. So that's really what By Admission Only it was. It's what it's going to be. So you expect a wide range of different films that we can talk about.
Absolutely. And this is really the one that kicked it off was The Flash. Seriously, I think one of the things we have to do is thank all of you guys. I mean, we have a really great relationship with the companies like Screambox and Welcome Villain, and we're able to get screeners for things and view this stuff early. We have a couple of feelers out there locally, but we were able to obtain tickets to this. It wasn't an official press invitation for us, so we're not at that level yet, but we did get an opportunity to check this out. And like I said, it kind of really kicked us into overdrive and said, well, why not? We're going to do this. So it's By Admission Only. It's going to be a part-time podcast over there where you're going to get probably some recent reviews. I tend to go to the theater a lot to see a lot of the modern stuff. I make my way out there to see like your Indiana Joneses and the new Nolan stuff. I'm gonna see the Barbie movie. So stuff like that. You'll get cute little fun reviews, and that is what we're going to present with you guys here today. So this video is also going to go up on the By Admission Only channel. This part won't be in it, but the part you're about to watch is going to basically give you an idea of what the format's going to look like and just kind of how we're going to, approach these reviews for that. So if you guys are film fans, if you're not just horror fans and you want to hear us gab about, anything else that's not just slashers, werewolves, and other creatures of the night, check out By Admission Only. I got a link down below, and there will also be a link at the end of the review for you as well. Thank you guys so much as always. We're almost there. We're getting close to 1,000. I think last I checked, we're at 913 subscribers on here. And yeah, I mean, it's just been wonderful. I honestly, I've loved everything that we've been able to do and accomplish. And again, it really all comes down to you guys. So yeah, Luke, you got anything left for him?
I just second everything that you said. I mean, Splattercast remains our top priority at the
Yep.
moment. I mean, horror films have a special place in our heart. We've really, we're embraced by the horror community. So,
Yes.
it's something where, we love the space. We love being in the space. So really expect the same consistent content that we've been doing here, and by admission will just be that kind of little extra, that little tidbit.
Mm,
So yeah, if we hope that you'll show the by admission only channel some love as well, to come hear our thoughts and opinions on a couple of upcoming films and some oldies but goodies.
absolutely. So yes, again, and I think that's important that you emphasize that. That is not going to affect the rates or anything that we're putting out content here. We still have a lot planned. We have a lot of things in the works. We have a lot of stuff on the docket for Splattercast. We couldn't drop it if we wanted to. So it's one of those things where, you're going to still get the same amount, same consistency. Like Luke said, by admission is just a nice little bonus. So I guess that's about it. So with that all wrapped up, why don't we hop into our review of The Flash? If you go to like the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was super concerned when this thing started because there's an opening sequence to this. I won't go into detail about anything, but some of that CGI was absolutely atrocious. Like there's one shot in particular involving a microwave that I just was like, what the fuck is this? They put this out?
Welcome back, cinephiles and film freaks. It's time to press play on another edition of By Admission Only. I'm Luke Janesco.
And I'm Dylan Newell.
And yes, we are here today to discuss DC's The Flash, which, it's no secret, if you've kept up with us on our other channel, I am out of this superhero game for a very long time. I haven't been to the theater to actually check out a superhero film in a couple of years. Last one I checked out, which wasn't in a theater, which is Werewolf by Night, which I did like. But, the DC stuff for me, it was a very big blind spot. I haven't really kept up with it, honestly, since Batman v Superman. I did see Wonder Woman for the previous iteration of By Admission Only. So this was me getting back in the driver's seat and experiencing the whole DC universe in a sense. So I'm a little rusty. Dylan, how did you feel about this?
So yeah, I mean, I have kept up with it. I like my superhero movies. I'm not a diehard for DC. It's no secret they've kind of been in a rut for a while, but I do check them out. I honestly just recently fell off. I didn't check out Black Adam, and we were so busy over on Splattercast that I just did not get a chance to see Shazam. So this is the first time in a little bit that I've seen a DC property. I think the last one I saw was James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which I know you saw, but not in theaters. You saw that after the fact.
Yeah, correct. Not in theaters. I did check that one out. I think it was a little bit after it had come out as well.
No, it was day and date HBO Max.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, I didn't watch it when it first came out on HBO Max. It was kind of one of those ones, again, not in the superhero game. I'll get around to it. But that's another one. John Cena is... I'm a fan of pro wrestling, and I think his Peacemaker portrayal is phenomenal. So I did check out a little bit of the series as well, which is pretty intriguing.
Yeah, I love that version of the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker show. Both excellent. Really give me hope for what James Gunn's going to do in the future here.
Yeah, which is, again, another interesting point. Going into The Flash, we already have the information that it's kind of they're putting a bookend on this version of the DC universe in a sense, and James Gunn's going to be rebooting it here in 2024, I think?
2025, I believe, is when the first one, Superman Legacy, is hitting theaters. So yeah, we don't have too long, but yeah, they have already announced that they're done with the stuff. So we have this, Blue Beetle, and Aquaman left on the table. I'm pretty sure those are the last ones, and then it's full-blown reboot territory for the most part. It's a little murky, which I'll bring up a little bit more later, because I guess the Flash has something to do with that too. But yeah, it's gonna basically be new Superman, new Batman, new most everything.
Which I think it presents an interesting dynamic, seeing the Flash, then going into Blue Beetle as well as Aquaman 2, already knowing that this is pretty much the end of this iteration here. So, you know, if you would have told me the Flash was going to be the thing that I was going to see to kind of get me back into the superhero game, I honestly would have never called that. I didn't really anticipate seeing this film until, you know, it was presented that we could see it at a screener. So, you know, interesting. Dylan, what are your thoughts on the Flash?
So getting into the movie itself, yeah, I was eager to check this out. It's no secret. I really was eager to see Michael Keaton's Batman. And I'll just get right out in front and say that I thought that him and Sasha Calle, who plays Supergirl, were both big highlights for me. I really enjoyed their performances. We'll dive deeper into that here shortly, but I think as the movie as a whole, and mind you, I keep up with the superhero stuff, so I know the whole discussion with superhero fatigue, and you know where we're sitting with all of these movies and how Marvel's starting to tip a little bit and everything, this, that, and the other. The movie as a whole, I think, works as a standalone film. As a connected piece to the overall DC universe, I mean, it's so down the toilet at this point with really getting anybody's hopes up that anything is gonna, you know, really bring this whole thing home. For me, I think that was Zack Snyder's Justice League, the cut that he made, the 4-hour cut, was kind of my big, all right, that universe is coming to an end. They're gonna have to restructure this. So this one's in a bit of an awkward spot because it's just like, it's been in production since like 2015, 2016 is when they announced that this movie was going to be coming out, or not coming out, but in production. And now it's 2023 and we're just getting it. And it's had like so many different directors and so many different recasts and stories. At one point, I know this was supposed to be like a team up movie between Cyborg and Flash, and it's just gone all over the place. But the movie as a whole, it came out pretty good, I gotta say. You know, it's not groundbreaking. Again, it's not anything, you know, that you haven't seen before, especially recently with the multiverse stuff. But it was fun. It was definitely fun, and it was nice to kind of just sit there and say, I'm detaching myself from the further DC universe. I'm just here to see what happens when the Flash messes up a timeline.
You know, and like, I think maybe I had a little bit of a more benefit not really keeping up with any of the DC stuff, so I didn't really have that looking at the Flash to see tonally if this is similar to all the other previous properties in the DC universe. Like, just this one as a standalone, I think is a pretty decent film. I mean, for me, we'll get into, you know, what we think overall later on, but you know, looking at this film, like you said, they're not really breaking the mold or anything here, where not being in the theater to witness any of these more current superhero things for over the last couple of years, I would say sitting in the theater and just experiencing the Flash, it really does feel like in tone with everything that I had been seeing, you know, previously when I was going in the theater, you know, every few months to see the new superhero property out there. And, you know, for me, I think it presented some fun, but also for me, I think maybe a critique is there's no real progression in terms of storytelling, where it's like, you know, it still feels the same as what I've been seeing in 2018 or 2017, you know, same. They have the particular superhero kind of jokes that for me don't really work. And I think this one was more so heavy into the comedy aspect, which, you know, some DC movies, they have their one-liners, but they're not full on to, you know, a lot of, you know, comedy, whereas Marvel seems to kind of sprinkle their comedy out throughout the actual entire film. This one, The Flash, seemed pretty heavy into the comedy, and I will say for me, it didn't really work. I think it was just kind of, it feels like the script is from 2015 and we're presenting it in 2023. So a lot of the comedy things for me, I would probably strike them on just because, there was a fair bit of eye rolling for me in the theater.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I think that you being out of the superhero game for a while, you had been commenting about the comedy stuff even back then, starting to grate on you. This was not nearly as offensive as some of the other stuff that we've been subject to. I thought Thor: Love and Thunder was fun, but trying to rewatch that movie, it's just joke after joke after joke, and I love Taika Waititi's work.
Yeah.
So it's tough to watch that one. This one wasn't as abrasive, and I think the way that they balanced that is by having the central character of the Flash almost have this slap in the face, look at yourself moment. And then there's this character, like, as you see to not spoil too much about it, because I don't want to give away any of the big reveals and things that people are waiting for. In the trailer, you see that there's two versions of the Flash here. And one of them is a much younger Barry Allen, and the other is the one we're currently with. And to kind of have him see the awkward, nutty, hyper version that everybody's been dealing with on his team and just in general, it's a slap in the face for him. And I thought that was a really interesting way to tell the story. So it gave us two in a sense unique performances from the same actor and the same character. And I did like how they did that. Did it always work? No, but I thought a lot of the humor set up around their interactions did play pretty great for me. And I do like them interacting with the bigger superheroes like Supergirl and, of course, Michael Keaton's Batman. Was another one. I liked a lot of those moments. Now, other things that I thought were done pretty well before I start getting into some of my detractors for this are going to be like, I thought for the most part the third act action sequence was pretty fun. Again, like you said, there's no real progression, there's no real finality to all of this, so it's kind of just like we know that he's gonna fight and some stuff's gonna happen, and that's about it. So it doesn't feel like there's a lot of stakes, but I think where they make up for that is just the visuals in that fight. I thought that that's where a lot of the Flash visuals look their best, because if you go to like the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was super concerned when this thing started, because there's an opening sequence to this. I won't go into detail about anything, but some of that CGI was absolutely atrocious. Like, there's one shot in particular involving a microwave that I just was like, what the fuck is this? They put this out? And oh my God, I was there. Do you agree with me on that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh man, as talking into the CGI, like the scene that you're talking about, I think was concerning for me. Certainly with the CGI, also from a comedy aspect, which I don't know if the subject matter is something maybe you would joke about. So for me, I was like, this is, from my perspective, a horrible creative decision. And looking at the CGI throughout the film, for me, was rough. The opening scene, all that stuff was pretty rough. I think when when the Flash is in I'm not sure, we're dealing with time and things like that. There's a big element there where he's surrounded basically by a lot of CGI items and people, and it is very rough. And I think even the Flash suit at times looks very rough. And some of the CGI at the very end, I think it did not really hold up for me. So I think the issues with the CGI for me throughout the entire film was a pretty big sticking point as well.
Yeah, and so I think it looks its best in the third act. I'll disagree with you there. I think that there were some very flashy, no pun intended, visuals towards the end, especially with a lot of moments that you'll see in the trailer. I won't spoil them, but they did really give you a sense of entertainment there that I thought was well warranted. And, I guess going into it, I highlighted them both before, but I thought that Sasha Cole as Supergirl was a very strong addition. And they're talking about bringing certain people over to the new DC universe. I would definitely, if James Gunn's watching this, I doubt it, consider bringing her over as your Supergirl, because I thought that she did a fantastic job. She's not in the movie a ton. And she doesn't have a whole lot given to her character by the time she gets brought in. But with what she has, she does do a lot of really great things. I felt the emotions with her were probably the second strongest in the entire film. There's one other plot detail that definitely pulls at your heartstrings, but I like the whole aspect of her, having her confrontations with Michael Shannon and some of the dialogue they shared. I thought that she really held her own, and she really, emanates that kind of power that I expect from a Kryptonian when she's in the suit and everything. And I really thought that she held her own very, very strong, and I enjoyed that a lot. And again, Michael Keaton's Batman is something that I was very excited to see. And I think that for the most part, it's a glorified cameo. He has one really awesome sequence also involving Supergirl that involves Russia. That's really great. But, other than that, does he do a whole lot for the story? Not really. He kind of just gives, the Flash a plate, like a home base in a sense. But, for me, I still enjoyed seeing him on screen. I still enjoyed the return. And you could just tell Michael Keaton's having a fucking blast doing it.
Yeah. And honestly, going into this film, I would never say that I had a craving to see a Flash film. I did have a craving to see Michael Keaton back as Batman. So that really is a selling point for me. I think he did deliver from that aspect. And yes, I think looking at the Supergirl character, I think they present a very interesting arc. But she doesn't get a lot of screen time, which I understand when you have basically two versions of a title character. Michael Keaton as Batman, someone's going to kind of fall by the wayside. But I think they presented some interesting character development through her. I would love to see more there. Again, I would love to see more from Michael Keaton as Batman. If we could ever get that, it would be, just something that I would be at the theater for. It could sell me on that easily.
Absolutely.
I think it was great seeing him, as Dylan mentioned, there's a scene in Russia. I love seeing the progression of the little devices and things that he's used. I think, again, a great portrayal. Michael Keaton is one of my favorite Batman portrayals. That is my Batman I grew up with. So having him back was just, it warms your heart. But, these kind of team up movies like that, you kind of have to divvy up screen time, and it's one of those things where when you have two versions of a title character and you're trying to tell that's, kind of a little bit of a heartfelt story, which I think was intriguing enough, but they didn't really, they only almost sprinkled that in just to facilitate what was actually going to be happening in the issues of this kind of butterfly effect. Where, I think the heartfelt story was more intriguing than the stuff where we just fall into the ABC equation of a basic superhero film.
And it's no secret that one of the things that was going to always be a touchy subject when tackling this film was tackling the Ezra Miller situation. We're not going to sit here and dwell on everything that they've done and the allegations and all that. And that was something I tried not to do when going to see the film. There's a lot of talented people involved here. One of the last points I want to make is the director, Andy Muschietti, who I will say, spoilers for my final thoughts, I think he did a great job with what he had to contend with and just the development hell that this film had been in for so long. So to lay all of my issues and things on one person, I think would be unfair to all the creatives involved. That being said, to address their performance, I thought that they did a very serviceable, very good job, I guess is the easiest way I can put it, because they're playing two versions of themselves and they feel very distinct. And I found myself intrigued. I found myself for the first time in the DC universe, this current DC universe, actually enjoying this variant of the Flash that we have. I've always thought that they were a bit hyper and a bit annoying in the previous outing in Justice League. But to kind of see them and a bit more vulnerable and a bit more grounded, I was impressed. And I do want to give them props that, if you go into this film and, you set all those biases aside, and if you're going to protest it and not go see it, then that's fine. But when you watch this movie, I think that the performance is strong enough that you can still go in and enjoy it. It's not going to ruin the time at all for you.
Yeah, especially playing two versions of yourself. I think that kind of gets tricky in terms of playing the same character, but you got to tweak it enough to feel different. And I think Ezra Miller put on a decent enough performance to make it feel like you are looking at two separate characters from two different timelines here. And especially making the Barry Allen that we've been with, kind of presenting them as more of a mature character a little bit, I think, because there's a scene in here, as we're not going into spoilers, between the prime version of Barry Allen, I don't know what to call it, and Michael Keaton's Batman, and deciding to hold a very important detail of information away from that other version of Barry Allen, because they didn't want them to, you don't know how to present that information there. And I think that shows a line of maturity and growth from the original Barry Allen character. So I think they did a pretty good job of differentiating the two different characters from two different timelines at two different points in their life, and not having, the traumatic events dilute the other version of Barry Allen. I'm getting all mixed up in terms of how to present. So I think it was an interesting dynamic, and I think it is sometimes hard to pull off different versions of yourself, but I think it was pretty well done in The Flash.
Absolutely. And I guess the last point I want to touch on before we kind of get into our final thoughts here would be Andy Muschietti. As I said, he came in onto this project right after he finished up with the It films. And he had a tall order. Again, this film was in development hell for years. Different directors, different writers, everybody under the sun attached to it. And it still took a while to come out after that because it kept getting shuffled and shifted because they just didn't know what they were doing with the DC universe. But he planted his flag and stuck to it. And I think if at the end of the day, if there's anybody who should be getting all the praise in the world, it's him. Because I think that, he had, a tall order to fill here. And then on top of that, with the Ezra drama, he's been able to stick through it and get this film to us. And on top of that, present, again, a very fun, energetic summer blockbuster that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy watching. Again, does it progress the story much? Not really, but I don't think that's what his intent was at the end of the day. Maybe when he first signed on, yes, he wanted to be that film that really got the DCEU back on the right path. But by the end of it, and I don't know what the original cut was going to be, I don't know what the original script was going to be. But by the end here, I've seen the final product, and I can say that he came in and he gave us a fun film that is going to make any diehard superhero fan, you don't even have to be a diehard DC fan, I think smile ear to ear in a lot of scenes. And again, it feels very light, it feels very fun and energetic, and it all comes from him. Does the humor work in all spots? No. Does the visual effects work in all spots? No. But I think that at the end of the day, what he had in front of him, he carved out the best possible version that we could have gotten.
Yeah, and I think that's where you need that vision of someone that's going to lead the charge in terms of the creativity and getting the film done. And I absolutely think that's he was a great creative mind to have behind this, and is that driving force, and to give us a product that we did have. Because it's hard enough when you look at the DC properties, and they're so hot and cold, and mostly cold. And it's like you have even bigger characters in the DC universe that those films couldn't even get right. So when you have the Flash land in your lap, and it's not a title character, it's not a Batman, it's not a Superman, these kind of huge DC properties, it kind of becomes a hard selling point for some some general audiences because it isn't a huge character. So to be able to create something intriguing enough to really start the summer off like this, and going into this, not going into this knowing, but knowing as this film's coming out what's on the horizon for the DC universe, but to still make something fun and to just kind of sit down and what is this, a 2-hour 20-minute runtime maybe?
Yeah, it's not overly long.
Yeah, and that's where it's like, pushing over 2 hours, I think films can become droning. But I think this film, for me, didn't feel droning at all. It seemed like it was pretty much a breeze to get through because again, when you push over 2 hours, that's really that make or break where a film almost feels too long. But I don't think you got this here with Flash, and I think there's a great creative force behind this. And we'll get into our overall thoughts, but I think it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And for my final thoughts and what I think you should do when it comes to The Flash, I'm going to say if you are a superhero fan, I say go check this thing out. I think that as far as our multiverse journeys go, is this one on the same level as like an Into the Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse? No. Is this, kind of more using it as a gimmick to get butts in seats? I think so, but I think that they use it well enough, and they do give you those member berries, and they do give you that fun time that it's hard to go into the theater and not have a good time watching this movie. If you're a hardcore DC fan, you're probably already going to go see it, so you don't need my recommendation, but I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll like the portrayal of Supergirl. I know you'll love seeing Michael Keaton back, and again, I thought that Ezra did a fine job as Flash. And as a casual moviegoer, definitely I think this is a good film to go out, seek, and spend some of your summer dollars on. And I give it a pretty big recommendation. I had a fun enough time. Is this something that I'm going to revisit a lot? Probably not, but it is one of those things where I do see it being just good enough for me to say I will throw this on every once in a while just to have some fun and just really to let go.
Yeah, and for me, I want to give this maybe a high recommend. I would give this a recommend to go out to the theater to check it out. I think with this one, this is going to be a communal experience, so I think you're going to need that packed theater to really, kind of drive home some of the selling points here. I think, again, it falls into your basic superhero film toward the end of the film with just, the big set pieces and a lot of action going on. So, if you're a big fan of that, I think you'll have a great time. There are a lot of familiar faces that are going to pop up, a lot of fun to be had here. I think this is a great kind of enclosed standalone story, so don't try to don't have your brain going in there trying to connect this to how it's all going to lead into more stories or anything. Just go in, sit down, grab your popcorn, grab your drink, and have some fun, and just go on that ride that they're presenting here. And it is more of a gimmick film, I think, as well, with this whole multiverse. Just go in like I did and enjoy Michael Keaton as Batman, because he does deliver here. So there's a lot of fun in here. Questionable CGI, I think. Some of the comedy doesn't work. I'd say most of the comedy doesn't work, but when it does, I think it really does hit. And again, a lot of great familiar faces that I think that'll give you a good chuckle.
Absolutely. And I think that this was a pretty good outing for our first time back on By Admission Only, if I do say so ourselves. There could have been worse films that we could have started with, but I was pleasantly surprised with this flick.
Yeah, me as well. I was so undecided going into this one. I was, again, not going to pick this one out to be jump back on the superhero horse. But now I am definitely going to be checking out Guardians Volume 3 as well as Across the Spider-Verse. Those are so definitely high on my list as well. But overall, both of us here recommend The Flash, so go out to the theater if you have the time. Definitely that communal experience that you're looking for to start the summer. And as we are starting the summer here on By Admission Only, fully kicking off the channel. So, if you haven't subscribed and you have found us here on your YouTube algorithm, we would appreciate you clicking that bell and hitting that subscribe button just to get us up in the more subscribers area, I guess, and start getting more content out to you guys. More here. Stay tuned on By Admission Only, because we will be bringing you more content throughout, the next few months. Part-time podcast. But until then, I'm Luke Janesco.
And I am Dylan Newell.
And remember, always silence your cell phones.
Sneaks up on you, doesn't it?
Well, I didn't even, for me, because I had done the intro, and I was like, as we were getting close, I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be closing this.